All right, who's doing the intro?
You can start it off. It's your show.
Oh, all right. All right. So we're here with the Red and Black Wrestling again, joining up. First time in a while. He's been doing his stuff with the Catholic school wrestlers. I've been doing my stuff with the public school wrestlers. So we're coming together again.
Yes,
A
sir. It's
little
been a long time coming.
virtual.
Last time was
Yeah,
what, 2022, right? For Journeyman.
21.
21, yeah. So even
Yeah,
further. Wow. So it's been 4 years.
yeah. So a little virtual marriage stuff in a way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Great time.
So we're going to talk about Final X. We're going to talk about what PJ Duke did because that was insane. The way he just like upset Yianni. It was like no one thought that a high schooler could make a senior team.
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of talk going into the match on whether or not like PJ was gonna be able to kind of hang in there with Yanni. Um, even how wrestling is so prominent in our household. We were kind of me and Mikey and Terry kind of all just talking about like our interpretations of like the match card and everything like that. And pretty much like when me and Mikey were breaking it down, it really came down to like the three matches benefited Duke the most. Which as we're gonna watch the match, you're gonna kind of notice how that kind of played out. Um, because realistically, your first initial encounter with Yanni is going to be your hardest because his style is so unorthodox that you don't find it anywhere else unless you're wrestling Yanni. So to wrestle him multiple times, especially in the same event, that benefit really went to Duke so he can figure out the puzzle that's Yanni. Um, and you'll kind of see where it plays out in match two. Um, where he just really didn't allow Yanni to force those same positions again. And he kind of just turned it into a firefight, which I think was the smartest thing for him to do, especially when you end up being a point away from being teched. You're 18 years old, you're going against pretty much one of the best in the world at your weight. Um, balls to the wall. Why not? And it paid off for him. And then it was forcing Yanni back into those positions, because Duke loves to go snap down front head, chase that far ankle. Um, he really likes when guys get extended so he can force his positions, likes to transition from that wrestling to that judo. So when we watch the match, we're gonna see that play out. But those were like our takeaways kind of going into the match as well. Um, that that may have been some way how it could play out. But obviously with wrestling, you know that sometimes that just flips completely on its head. And we ended up getting an amazing best of three series.
Yeah, PJ definitely somehow he found a way to adjust in 90 minutes. It was between the matches of 90 minutes. So in 90 minutes, he went from getting tech to doing what he did.
Right. And credits to Coach KD as well, because he's definitely the mind behind that, the gear that gets that all turning, because he has an amazing club. Because it's not just PJ. Pretty much any guy that he's churning out of there is producing some sort of gold, at the very least, state championship. Um, I don't know if I think you missed the state championships this year. But like just the amount of guys that train out of the KD wrestling room that won the state tournament alone. Their college guys are winning world medals and everything like that. So it's kind of just like a whole bar that they're starting to set over there too, which is amazing for them.
Yeah, that is very cool. I know those guys bounce around from club to club, but KD is definitely one of the guys that has a lot of guys winning states, even
Right.
places. Some guys from NYC, Tristan Levin, and people like him, they trained at
Right.
KD a little bit, and they got them on state building. So that's
Right.
really cool.
They do amazing, especially in the off season. You see these guys really turning it up more in the off season too, which is great because you want to see guys competing year round. You don't want them competing just 4 months of the season, especially if you're trying to be the best in your state in the country.
I mean, you have to compete all year round. You just have to.
100%. You really shouldn't be thinking like if you want to be the best, it's not even a question. Like wrestling year round should be a requirement. Unless, because you do get people that are like two sport athletes. Sometimes they get like another season to commit to, but other than that, you should be committing to your wrestling season year round.
Exactly. You should definitely be committed. And I got to work. I got it to work. So the
Oh,
screen
there
is
we go.
shared.
This was giving us a real
Now
hard
let's
time before
see.
we were recording, guys.
All right. So we're gonna turn the commentary off. We're gonna do the talking.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't think we're gonna need that.
But Jordan Burroughs is on commentary, though. Great commentator.
Yeah, he always kills it. Even when he covers the NCAAs, I always love hearing him and DC kind of just going back and forth.
So I got PJ here. So despite the technical difficulty, we got everything working now. So the first things first, PJ's not scared.
No,
He
100%. He
beat
had him immediately. Yeah.
he beat NCAA champs to get there, so he's not scared.
Exactly. So the kind of like the shock factor in like, am I even able to compete with an NCAA champ? Like, has already worn off because you've already beaten two on your way here, you know? And interestingly enough, Yanni has been somewhat of like an idol to PJ as well. So this is kind of like master and like apprentice type of matchup we ended up getting. Like not necessarily a passing of the torch because Yanni's still young, still competing, still in his prime. But seeing like two legacies clash, especially out of New York, that creates such a great history for us for New York wrestling.
Yeah. I did a bunch of episodes. I kept telling people, even when I was in college wrestling, talking to these New Jersey people and stuff, and people from other states, kept letting them know, look, New York, it's better than you think.
Right, right,
I would mention Kyle Dake and they say, oh, that's one person. I would say Yanni. They say, oh, that's one person. Well, we got more than that.
right. And you got PJ who's entering college now, and he already has college names on his hit list already. Like, and
Yeah.
one of them is now a four-time NCAA champion. So it's like the arguments are kind of crazy.
Yeah. PJ was doing a great job defending, great job trying to get to his ties. You saw the Russian tie earlier a little bit.
Oh yeah. PJ Dude does very well with controlling the limbs. He's looking to kind of just isolate, get to his positions, score big points. Is
Yanni
it?
loves that split leg defense.
Oh yeah. And like this is where like you can see PJ still trying to figure Yanni out because Yanni like absolutely bullies PJ in these earlier positions in this match.
Yeah, that lock. After this point in the crowd, I was rooting for PJ, like, come on back, please come back, but people I'm sitting with, we all kind of knew, like, Yanni's probably going to win this match.
Right. Right. And then goes to what we said before, kind of like figuring Yanni out. Like you need multiple run-ins with Yanni to figure him out. And you're not even probably like you may not even get closer for several if you're able to wrestle him that many times. Like Love It, for example, had that one very close outing with him and the Cliff Keen, but then, adjustments were made and Yanni walked away with the victory. Um, who else has wrestled Yanni multiple times? Jaden
PJ,
Ironman.
yeah, Jay Nyman,
Um,
yeah.
Ironman was another one where he's always had somewhat close matches with Yanni, but you, it's very hard to figure him out in a lot of those positions where he's doing that split leg defense where you really think you're going to get the takedown and he just does that one last Yanni defensive maneuver and you don't end up with the takedown. He's a very frustrating wrestler. McKenna, another one where in the NCAA finals, he was, you could argue he could have scored points there and Yanni did his thing and out Yanni the position.
Yeah,
So He's definitely
PJ
shown,
was
yeah.
yeah, PJ's doing a great job so far in this first match, though, just trying not to get scored on too hard. You saw how he kind of flipped to his belly.
Right. Knowing when you're already losing the position is such a big thing too, because a lot of guys kind of fight too hard staying in the same position. Sometimes they give up the bigger points. So knowing when to kind of bail out when you've already lost is another smart thing too. It's IQ.
And going back to what you were saying about the adjustments, Yanni had months to make the adjustments to be able to widen
Right.
the gap or get his win back against those guys during the college seasons. But PJ only had 90 minutes.
Right. Right. He had a lot of not a lot of thinking actually to do. Very little time to ponder what to do in match two. And it kind of seems like it was figured out mid-match too. See, like later in the match, you see that this position was forced again, but he made it work the next time around, that chest wrap position. He went for it that time, but he wasn't able to get it. Yanni kind of bullied him through and got the finish.
Yanni got this tech. We were like, oh man. But Omar Tenkara, he was there, beat the streets guy, two-time
Yeah.
HSA champ, Drexel commit. He wrestled Cooper Murley at it during the intermission.
Yeah, they had a great match.
Yeah, Cooper Murley, two-time New York State champ, back-to-back, three-time finalist. And Omar was saying, well, I'm going to censor what Omar said, but basically he said, PJ's mad now. PJ's going to beat him up now. He's going to want to beat him up in his next
Right.
match. So, and that's what he did.
And the turnaround from this match too. I mean, you're a takedown, a step out even away from getting tacked. So it's really kind of just letting it fly at that point, and like just having fun. You're in Final X, you're 18 years old. Like, think about it too. You're 18 years old. You're competing at Final X. You're not a spectator. They're there to watch you. You're 18 years old, competing for a senior world team at Final X. Let it fly, have fun. The amount of people who were not rooting for PJ going in, like the whole thing of like people may not be expecting you to win. Just have fun. Just have fun. And then you might even surprise yourself and come away with the win, which he did twice.
But you know what though? I don't think that was PJ's mindset. Like me and the people were talking, like me, Cooper, Omar, and people like that, Craig Sampson, like talking a bunch of people. We knew PJ was gonna be out there really trying to
Oh
mess him
yeah.
up. Like whatever KD and Zane Rutherford said to him in those 90 minutes before this match began, it's like
Oh yeah.
something, whatever it was, they gave him something in his mind, something in his head to get him right to be like, look, you're not going out like this.
Right, 100%. Like that, probably focusing on some minor things in those positions, like maybe stay away from these positions, force these positions a bit more, like open him up here, like kind of just like exploring some technical aspects of it.
Right away, PJ's already a bit more defensive. He's already in the lead with 3 points.
Really just coming high and low, really just not letting Yanni stay to him too hard.
Nice crotch move, attempt
Yeah.
at least.
Nice,
And then he got some
nice to try the
back
inside trip there, but great job by PJ to kind of just float his hips over and roll over Yanni there.
seeing it this close now, because I was watching the mat, I wasn't looking at it on the screen, but like seeing it
Right.
this close now, yeah, I don't think that Gianni should have got that point so that he
Because
challenged
I
him.
was gonna say they did review it. I mean, when you look at it from the reverse angle that they're about to show, PJ does step out first, but it looks like they almost hit simultaneously. So it's like, do you allow continuation? Hmm, because the
He did
action,
step out. Yeah.
right. So you kind of have to go by the first initial step. So was it PJ or was it Yanni? And then you kind of go from there. So if it was PJ, then you go technically step out. But if you allow continuation, you allow the next move to score.
I love how they have a million different angles.
Right, because I think they allow reviewing footage now, or at least they just
Yeah.
started introducing that collegiately. But which I feel like
He
that's
stepped
long
out
overdue.
first. He stepped out, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you're right, collegiately, because they're on TV, they're on ESPN, so You only allowed a certain amount of time. Yeah, he stepped out first. Yeah,
And see, this is the great thing about having these introduced to our sport is like we're finally allowing the correct scores to happen, because we all fall for human error. Sometimes we see things that we don't see, or how many times just even in matches that we may personally coach, do calls not be given because the ref wasn't at the correct angle on time. So they may not have seen a fall, or they may not have seen a takedown, or they may have called something out of bounds when it wasn't because they weren't in the correct angle or to see something in the correct way. But now we can kind of get these different angles that we're not able to catch and pick up on our mistakes.
right, exactly. And I noticed in the arena they were kind of doing it like football, where they would have the ref like announce on the loudspeaker this call, so like how they do in football and NFL.
Yeah. I think that it's really cool
So
though too. It kind of like immerses the fans a bit more, kind of like because when you go to those other sporting events, it's natural for it to happen. So, kind of introducing it here, testing the waters a bit, at least in states or state, depending on some people. Um,
yeah,
when there are certain matches featured, they'll be like, "Hey, pay attention to mat four. We got like number one and number four seed for the semifinals going on. It's a 6-6 score." And like, they'll try and like be like, "Hey, look at what's going on." Like it's nice. It's cool.
yeah, try to legitimize it a little bit.
100%. And then you
Similar to
see
how
everyone
they,
kind of just go shift their focus.
yeah. And I could tell you, to be honest, most of the focus was on the men's matches more than the females matches a little bit.
I felt like with the
It was
women's
only
matches this year, a lot of them were gonna go the way that people thought they were gonna go, for the exception I
exactly,
think of maybe like the Jakara match. Like there were like one or few matches that were kind of swing matches, but a lot of the other ones were kind of just like, we know that, Kennedy is gonna win, or
Helen.
Helen's gonna win. Like, you kind of just had like your picks that were locked already.
Yeah, there wasn't much anticipation, unlike the men's
Right.
matches. So Yanni's up 9-2, 3.5 minutes left.
In just the first period, we still have a whole other period of wrestling to be doing.
Yeah, you gotta think about the mentality too. Like PJ's all the way over here in this final X best of three. The eye poke right there. I said John Jones when it happened in the crowd. So let's see who gets that reference. But just the fact that PJ's there and Ridge Levitt, he wrestled in the shoot. No, 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 no. It was who was it? The last guy PJ beat before
Um,
this.
Henson,
Virginia Tech. I forgot his name.
Henson, I believe. Caleb Henson.
Caleb Benson. Okay, yeah. So he wrestled in the true third, but he looked like he wasn't even there. What I didn't want to be there.
Right. There
I want to
were
be wrestling
like
for
what, like
third.
five true third matches.
Yeah, and they were all good, but the last dude that freaking PJ had beaten, he looked like it was just like man. It's
Right.
like his mind just wasn't there because he got beat by a high schooler.
Right.
Yes,
'Cause
it's PJ Duke, but he got beat by a high schooler. So like the mindset that PJ must have, it's like it's insane for him to
oh yeah,
even be able to
definitely a sharp
get
mentality.
there. And then we got this best of three thing going on. I mean, I wonder how the masses feel about best of three in general.
To be honest, I like it for like, especially when it comes to certain events like this. Because it kind of negates the ideology of like, oh, it was a fluke win. This person shouldn't be on like the world team. Like, because like some people will be like, oh, this person got lucky, and like they'll kind of like not justify or like illegitimize the win. I feel like when you do a best of three like this, it's like a proper wrestle off. Like you can really tell between three matches who the better wrestler is that time.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
'cause
Sometimes the
you can
ref
always
could
have
get
the
involved.
argument that someone was lucky with one win. Even if that's not the case, that's always going to be somebody's argument, you know? How do you explain someone losing two or three straight times? They weren't the better wrestler that time,
The word.
you know?
Yeah. People always want rematches. That it was Bryce Andonian.
And Donnie, that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
I thought it was Henson.
So yeah, but Andonian's usually like real docile, real cool guy, ready to
I
go
think
at it, let it
Andonian had to
fly.
wrestle Henson, right?
He wrestled Henson, yes,
That's
and
what it was.
Henson
I
won.
got it.
And then but Henson beat him way worse than we thought. And I was talking with Craig Sampson, and I was like, you know what? Maybe Andonian's just out of it because of the fact that he got beat by a high school.
Right.
3-time college All American, D1, and you get beat by a high school.
Right. And it seemed like that was kind of like what Yanni's biggest chip was on his shoulder this weekend or that weekend. Like if you even watch like some of the interviews he did leading up to it, it
Here it
seemed
comes, here it comes.
a big
Boom.
chest wrap. Boom. That was the adjustment from that last position. In the first
Now,
match, Yanni was super glued to him and was able to force and drive that double. He allowed Yanni to get extended to step around and chest wrap and complete it. Some little adjustments were made, which is very nice. Um,
now, what we're gonna do here is have a little fun. I'm gonna play the clip like live because we were going crazy when it happened.
Gets that underhook. Yanni forces that shot, which then forces him into the position for the chest wrap, and he just rips it so clean. And with freestyle, it's so forgiving to trade points because that's
Yeah,
a 4-1 exchange there. Folk style, that's two takedown
nothing.
Yanni. That's it.
Two check. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing for PJ.
Three
Exactly.
takedown Yanni now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Now
the
it's a two
quickest
point
allowed.
match.
Exactly.
Yanni's all like, "Oh, what was going on?" Well,
Right.
he knows he landed on his back though. You got to know that.
100%. That action was started on your feet. You went to your back. You know you gave up four there. And that's probably the
You
realization of, oh crap, I just gave up a 4-point move. Like now I have to wrestle and get more points on the board and narrow this gap a bit more. You know, he kind of forced Yanni into some bad positions again here. Grounded here, so you really can't get push out here, but that forces him to go for a spin behind and gets that clean throw.
suplex, man.
And then the
You
IQ
gotta.
of Duke to not get so caught up in just the throw, he goes straight into the gut wrench and just goes
Exactly.
next move, gets the next set of points.
So, and that's the thing with PJ. He's not a regular high school.
Some people
Andonian
might have
was
stopped and just been like, I just threw him. Let's go.
exactly. His IQ, his acumen is that of somebody at Yanni's level, right? He's not just a regular high school wrestler. But not the way we were acting in the crowd when the suplex happened.
So clean. And it could have even been just muscle memory taking over, even if he did get a little excited about the throw. Just transitioning right into the next move is
Exactly.
already a champion. Boys, cut it out.
Yeah, he wrestles like a champion. That's what he does. PJ was ready to win. Now he's up by 5. He was down
How'd
by
you take the
2.
whole
Now he's
lead?
up by
You were down, he was down what, 9-2 or 9
5.
like 0
And then
before?
and then he turned into a 2-point match. And then now he's up by 5. And he
And
got
there's
2 more
10
just for
seconds
good
left.
measure. Yanni kind of gave up a little bit. He got upset.
Right. At that point, you kind of already know, like, you
Look at
broke him
yeah,
a
look at
little bit.
PJ. You see PJ nodding his head.
He knows he did the second match. He pulled the upset, you know, like beating Yanni is very feasible. It became like an achievable goal. Like now making the world teams achievable. Now it's like I just went from being tech to being a point away from losing my spot on the world team to being a backup to now I can be the starter. I can be the guy competing for USA for worlds.
before time runs out. Good thing that PJ got a pin because I think we
Put
could
a
do
whole
this.
stamp on it.
I think we can do this before time runs out. Come on, YouTube. Come on, YouTube.
Technology's all good until it isn't.
Exactly. I'm not upgrading. So it's not happening. It's gonna be a little laggy at first, but it'll come around.
That made me
Don't
want
show
to grill.
wrestlers food commercials. Don't do that.
Right?
Wrestlers need to
And that
watch
was
that.
for the play. It wasn't.
Exactly. It wasn't for the food.
Now I kind of want to grill.
Yeah. PJ's poor.
He kind of like that position I was saying before, going that front headlock, chasing that far ankle. Kind of went for it immediately. Just letting it all fly here in the third and final match.
But now he knows where he's good at now after his two
Exactly. He knows the
matches.
winnable positions. That far outside shot.
He found a way to stop the split leg. Yeah, he did. He found a way to stop that.
You got to wrestle the hip there. You get caught up in the legs, you're wrestling the limb, you're gonna get tied up.
That's
See how he
exactly what
wrestles
he's
the hip
doing.
and the waist. Exactly. You wrestle the hip and the waist, you fight the body there, kind of cut it in half a little bit. That's how I like to phrase it. You cut them in half. So I tell some of my guys, cut them in half. Um, and you kind of see he brought him into a grounded position and was able to kind of try and score there. But I think they gave Yanni step out point, it looked like. I guess PJ stepped really wide with his outside leg and accidentally stepped outside. But happens. Sometimes you're not overly aware of exactly where, because freestyle is very strict about even if your toes out, that point's going up.
Yeah, especially internationally.
Right,
Like in Jordan's most recent World Championships, he was able to place, which is crazy. But I think it's more the calls than anything.
right. And the hand fighting is constant. They're not giving each other, he's not giving Yanni much room to breathe. He's very in his face, hands on, because the more space and more time you give Yanni, he's gonna figure you out and dissect you. So you can't let him breathe. Yanni with a beautiful shot, finishes clean. At least a step out. They're gonna award continuation if he's able to continue this. But
PJ wasn't going to let him do that. That quad pod saved his life.
and since he fought that hard for a little bit, they just kind of cut the position. He was only awarded the step out. So, and for some people who don't or may not know what I mean by like continuation, continuation is in freestyle or even Greco, where if an action is started in like technically you can say like the center of the mat, but kind of like inbounds, I guess is probably better phrasing. Um, and that action starts to make its way out of bounds. Rather than completely stopping the action, they'll let the action continue to completion out of bounds and say if that move transitions from a potential 1 or 2 point move to a 4 or a 5, they'll award the higher points there. And we're not missing out on the most iconic moment of this match. We're gonna rewind that.
Yeah, we're going to let because man, just being there to see it.
And him hooking that near leg, not a lot of people really called that out, even though it was kind of like the first thing that I saw. Because some people were like, "Oh, he needs to be a bit more chest to chest or hook here," and I was like, "Eh." Only because if you notice how he hooked that leg, it negated the need to overly extend with his chest and get on top. He was eliminating Yanni being able to push off of his back with that leg by elevating it. And by elevating it, he's driving more of that pressure towards his back onto his shoulders.
Yep. Yeah.
So
See that
beautiful
again.
that outside shot there, that sweep.
It's like,
He had
oh
that
yeah,
underhook, but when he whipped it with the high single and sat him just right on his back. Two beautiful motions,
yeah, that
elevating on
position
that
right there.
single right there, caught on his butt, and then realistically, that is the moment to bail out. If you haven't bailed out or chested out there, essentially you're pretty much like how it results. You're gonna end up pinned. That was the exact moment to bail out the second that leg came up. And you probably would have even had to have been quicker to get it to your stomach.
But Yanni was just so overwhelmed that that happened to him because usually no one does that to him.
No, 100% not. It's one of those things where it's like when it happens, like your brain has to take a few extra seconds to kind of process it because you're not in those positions too much. Like obviously Yanni's used to guys getting in on his legs. He almost invites them to. But to kind of have those two things happen simultaneously, he's never sat on his butt like that on a lot of shots that people shoot on him.
Yeah, yeah. PJ was just playing it real smart. I think that wrestling at the hip more. I think PJ he's getting a medal at Worlds. I don't want to jinx it that he's going to win it right away, but he's getting a medal. He's leaving with something.
Right. And there's a lot of going to be a lot of high expectations for him too when he makes his collegiate debut because going into college, you've beaten three NCAA champs already, bud. Like the expectations are going to be really high. People are probably already picking him as their bid to win. And, you know, even like what you said, when you've had guys that come in with that expectation, people almost kind of put them on a pedestal. But nobody yet has come into college with a resume so far like PJ Duke. Um, I feel like the
Yeah,
last time we probably even had someone like that was Yianni.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it kind of felt like not
yeah.
necessarily a passing of the torch, like I said before, because both of these guys are still in their prime.
Even
But
like Kyle Dake didn't have a crazy resume, and he won four different weights. No one's done that.
right, no one's done that 100%. Um, so I definitely like it, at least the direction that New York wrestling's headed. Because we even have a few of our studs competing at the NCAA Division One level. Some
Sean
based
Deagle,
out of, I was gonna say some based out of our section. Sean Deagle, gonna be competing for Penn State. Did an interview with him catching up, so it was very nice to kind of see how he was doing on campus and everything. Um,
Xavier Giles, he's at Princeton.
yeah. We also have another guy who committed to Iowa out of our section, Paulo Sciato. Another Iona wrestler. So funny enough, kind of former teammates going to rival schools. So it's pretty fun. Um,
Suleiman Ba, he's at Columbia.
Yeah, yeah, and he's killing it too. I've been keeping up with what he's doing. He's doing amazing. So you kind of, like just like how we're just listing off names. All these guys that are coming out of New York that are doing well, making names for themselves at the D1 level. We're building a rich culture in New York. Um, New Jersey and PA, being behind them is not necessarily a bad thing. These are programs and states that have been doing this for a long time, and for us to kind of be even hanging in there, beating these guys, you know, says a lot about how far we've come.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna keep on going, but we can definitely say right now, PJ Duke is the greatest high school wrestler of all time.